I am Destroy Troy, and we thank you for coming and joining us again here at the VR Aperture, your source for the most detailed news in virtual reality and reviews from an engineer's perspective. And what you may not know is that we don't just do reviews on VR games and VR hardware, but we also do reviews and topics on PCs for VR, running VR, and the components therefore for the builds of those VR machines. And so today we received the last of our packages from Cyber Monday. We of course already have ours from Black Friday because we picked them up in person, and we would like to help you this year in trying to pick the parts for your next build. There are some really good sources on YouTube to help you in this. The Gamers Nexus, Bitwit, Jay's 2 Cents are all incredible sources. Jay's 2 Cents actually was pinnacle in my first water-cooled build. So if you want to learn about water cooling, I recommend you go to his channel. We'll provide a link in the description for you. But in order to sift through the ocean of parts that are available to today's gamer, you would have to do hours, dozens of hours of research on these various channels that I mentioned. And today our purpose is to try and, in the course of an hour, try to give you a better understanding of what is important in building a high-end or enthusiast-grade gaming PC. There are a lot of videos on building budget PCs for less than $1,000. This is not that. So if that's what you're looking for, unfortunately, we will not be able to maintain within that price range. These are custom build, custom loop, water-cooled computers specifically designed to support the need of high-end VR visors. And so we're going to be focusing on high-end gamer or enthusiast grade components. And that's actually, I think, more difficult because you're spending more money, and it's more important that you get the best for your money, in our opinion. And there are a ton of parts to choose from. And starting off, I know this is a controversial choice, but we went with little cat hair there. Thank you, Shelby, for pointing that out. Shelbeast. We went with the Intel CPU. And if you're not aware why this is highly controversial, AMD has made a huge splash now in their third generation, or they're kind of making a big return. And for mid-grade PCs for gaming, they're an excellent choice for a mid-grade PC. If you want top end as high as you can go, like in the consumer grade, without going into like server grade, you get into the Threadrippers and the XE series, trying to stay reasonable. We believe that you still stick with Intel on your CPU for the high end. Even Jay's 2 Cents would agree with us on that, though he knows that he gets in kind of a bit of trouble because he recommends it so much, and people feel that he should be switching over to AMD. But that's, like I said, fine for the mid grade, but for the high end, Intel is the choice. This is a i9 9900K. The K denotes that it's unlocked for overclocking, and so we have high potential with the i9. I believe the base clock is 3.6 gigahertz, but it is capable of supporting 5 gigahertz on all cores. And when we actually get to complete the build, which, by the way, stay tuned with us, we'll be doing a series on this build as we, if you want another source for hard tube bending, PETG bending for liquid cooled systems, We'll be doing a demonstration on that. There's tons of those out there, of course, for you to choose from, but we appreciate you choosing us. To go with this i9 processor, we have chosen a motherboard by Gigabyte, and this is the Aorus series, specifically the Master. And the reason why we chose the Aorus series is at any price point, they have the superior power delivery system, being the VRMs. If you're not familiar with the VRMs, they choke and bring down the voltage for the CPU and try to keep that voltage at a stable level at a constant rate. And so if you're overclocking, it's very important that you have a very strong and confident power delivery system. Let me go ahead and open this up. And so, like I said, that's why we chose the Master, but any of the Aorus line at any price point is really a good choice for overclocking. And so here's the board. And up here and here are the VRMs underneath the heat sink. Sorry, I'm having trouble talking. The heat sinks. The VRMs are underneath the heat sinks here, and because they have such a strong delivery system, they've opted in for this heat sink. We will be replacing this with a water block that covers the whole thing just to be overkill. But that's for people who are intending to overclock their system and get the most they possibly can. The important aspect of the board that you're going to choose is the VRMs. You got the number of USBs, the number of slots, and everything's kind of peripheral, and they tend not to vary too much from board to board. Some of them don't make the greatest choice, like putting 4 USB 2.0s on this is kind of a questionable, since we're now on USB 3.1 Gen 2, and it's interesting that they're still including these old 2.0s, or that number of them. We also have a number of slots for M.2 motherboard, solid state drives, pardon me, and expandable memory to 128 gigs, and a massive supportive plate on the back. Look at that thing. This is an incredibly hefty board, and I don't know, that board seems to be plate seems a bit overkill, but for those of you who want to build a high-grade VR machine for an index kit, you plan to get the index, you're going to need a powerful system, but you don't quite want to spend the extra, I don't know, $70, $80 for the Master Series. We highly recommend I cannot get this back in there. Shelby, can you put this back in there? Just don't wedge it. Thank you. Thanks, Shelby. We also highly recommend, sorry for the interruption, the Pro Series. The Pro Series is, yikes, is, like we said, Aorus line is good at any price point for the VRMs, and the Pro version of the Aorus line is also a very good choice. Moving on from there, sorry, we have our M.2 drive here, and you could choose a Western Digital Blue Edition for about $100, maybe less, depending on the sales. And we wouldn't actually recommend that, especially if that's going to be your primary drive. They are able to reach the benchmarks that they advertise, but they're not good at maintaining those high speeds, those high data transfer rates. With this 970 Evo series, whether it's the base or the Plus or the Pro, all with a different transfer rate, are stable enough to maintain that transfer rate for longer periods of time. And so you can actually choose that to be your primary drive. Moving on, we have the big boy. We have the GeForce RTX 2080 Super. And there's a couple of reasons why we chose this. One, EVGA is the only manufacturer that we're aware of that will honor their manufacturer's warranty even after you've removed the stock water cooler or the stock cooler and put on a water block or water cooler. And that's why we chose EVGA. We chose the For the Win 3 edition specifically for its power delivery system. You could get the black edition and save some money, and still get that peace of mind with the warranty if you're going to put a water block on it. But it may be a waste of money to put a water block on the Black Series 2080 Super from EVGA because it doesn't have the increased power delivery system to support a higher overclock. And we also hear that there's a power limiter issue, like hard coded into it, and that some overclockers have had difficulty getting beyond that point. That seems to be restricted intentionally. And so that's why we choose the For the Win 3 edition. You don't have that limitation, but you also have the increased power delivery. Instead of the 8 and 6 prong power adapter, it's the 8 and 8. And it just, that little bit of difference helps in providing power for the highest possible overclock. But it's actually not the one that we plan to put in the build that we're going to be doing the series on. We actually chose this one right here. The first one, by the way, came from Micro Center. They had really incredible deals for Cyber Monday. I can't recommend them enough for price, but it was a zoo in there. And if anyone from Micro Center is watching, it's no sort of convenience to provide an online method for reserving parts, and then to provide a two registers for online pickup and have it mixed with returns, which returns obviously take far longer usually than one paying for something at a register, if it's especially 1 or 2 items, but also if it's just going to be a pickup and it should be streamlined, and you have that line mixed in with the most complicated line, which is returns. Whereas they had 5-6 line registers open for the main checker, moving in and out of there far longer, standing in line for 45 minutes to be helped 2 at a time was unreasonable and not convenient. But did get an excellent price, an excellent deal. We're actually going with the EVGA 2070 Super. Now, I know some of you who've read our comments said, wait a minute. Didn't you poo-poo the RTX line? I said, yes, I did initially poo-poo the RTX line, but this is the Super line. In my opinion, they just didn't really make enough advancements, even with the ray tracing, but it was also the first generation of that new technology, and I just felt that you would be better off getting a GTX 1080 Ti from the previous series. In a lot of cases, that one was still more powerful, but than all of them except for the 1080, I believe. The 2080, sorry, the RTX 2080. And even then, it was very close. So that's why I never recommended. But now that we're in the Super and they bumped it up a bit, we've decided to go this route. And there's also the added benefit of I forget what they call it. I think it's a VR link, something to that nature, where it's a USB Type-C connection where your VR visor connects directly to it. So instead of having that thick Trident cord, you can have a thin USB Type-C cord. So this is actually a much better value for your money. The 27 Super provides real high-end gaming power, computing power at an expensive price tag, but the increase in price from this to the 2080 Super is around 14% improvement in power or increase in power, but it's like about a 25% increase in price. So it's really kind of for those of you who have the money, who have really no budget limits. And those of you who still need to keep it reasonable, we recommend the 2070 Super, even over the new AMD Ryzen cards. They're really good. Once again, AMD is really good for the mid-level, but when you get into the high-level gaming and enthusiast grade, it's still NVIDIA, in our opinion. Let's see. What else do we have? Oh yeah, we have the memory. So this is also another difficult one. Pardon me. If you're going with an i9 processor, we recommend at least 3200 megahertz speed memory. And the Corsair Vengeance LPX is a very good choice. A lot of overclockers use this model and say that this is a really good bang for your buck with overclocking. We got a really good deal from this from Newegg. We caught it during actually a post Cyber Monday sale where this was $60 for 16 gigabytes, and we picked up 2 of them. And this is once again the 3200 megahertz, and it's for those of you who understand the nitty gritty, it's the CL16, which is having to do with latency. And for the same price, you can get the rip job, but it was a CL19, and it has to do with the delay from when the CPU or the system requests something off the memory to the point to it actually starts to initiate that transfer. That has to do with that delay. So I'm going to go ahead and leave these up there, actually. What's the problem, Shelby?
You can't see it.
Oh, you can't see it. It's okay. All right. Shelby's afraid to talk. This would not be his first live debut either, so that's interesting. His shyness. I guess he doesn't want to ruin the video. He was afraid of ruining the video. This one I want to get to in a moment. Opening all our Cyber Monday packages for those of you who are just tuning in. It's Cyber Monday delivery day. We've got the last of our packages. And we're excited to share it with you. These are important ones. These are actually related, so I'll show you both at the same time. And this one we'll have to save. And then what else do we have down here? We got one more from Newegg. Oh yeah, you know, I didn't mention for this line. Oh yeah, that's both packages, by the way. For running all the way up to a 2080 Super, 650 watt power supply is all you need. And we once again chose EVGA for their superior customer service. We can't thank you enough when we've needed you, and you've been there for us immediately. You got stuff to us very quickly whenever there was something extra or something might have been off from our purchase from the original retailer or something like that. Or if there was, you know, if we had to RMA something, they 24-hour customer service, I believe it is. And we chose the Gigabyte one, so I'm kind of reluctant to say, but no telephone support at all. So no calling Gigabyte. EVGA not only has, you know, MSI has telephone, but they have specific hours, and you pretty much, my girlfriend was shocked that the time of night that I called on a Sunday and got a hold of someone at EVGA just to ask them a question to verify the warranty about removing the stock cooler. I actually don't know what's in this one. I forget. But it's another package from Newegg. I've not shopped from Newegg before. I don't know if I'd recommend them. Oh yeah, these all three are related. In fact, this one is related. These are related to this one here. Sorry, thank you for bearing with us. This is the VR aperture, and we're helping you to decide your parts for your 2020 build, for the year 2020. So these are all water cooling parts. First off, we have a pump. This is our pump. This is the standard D5 pump. You know, you can buy them from a multitude of vendors, and you can pay extraordinary amounts for this, but they are all made from Lang. They're made from the same manufacturer and remarketed by whatever vendor. And so you can buy one of these from, you know, EK Water Blocks and pay a considerable amount. It'll be most likely be the exact same one that I have here. This is a PWM model, so it has the extra, well, it has a 4-prong connection, but you'll be able to control its speed with your power curve that you set in your CMOS or in your BIOS, and versus having one that you adjust manually, which is what's on my current system. You don't have to get in there with a super long screwdriver or wherever your pump is located to change the speed. And then we have our water blocks that accompany the pump. These are from EK, though, because they're the only manufacturer that I'm aware of that makes one for the EVGA for the Win 3. So if you're trying to find one, I think your options are limited here because we weren't able to find anybody else. EVGA does make their own water block for their own graphics card, and you might ask, well, Destroy Troy, why don't you just buy that one? Well, I'd first say they charge a premium for that water block, more than I paid for this one. And two, more importantly, EVGA is not in the business of making water blocks. As far as I know, it's the first one that they've ever made. And if they, whereas EK, this is what they do. It's in the name. They test and test and test and benchmark and try to get that extra 1 degree C or 2 down on your temperatures, which is, you know, trivial, but if it's cheaper and likely better, then it's kind of an obvious choice, right? So there are other options. Fantex, I love Fantex. I have one of their cases. In fact, this over here, we'll show you in a minute. Don't look, we'll show you. That one is from Fantex as well, and they make water blocks. I haven't tried theirs. I can't recommend them per se, but I know that they're available. Bits Power is another one. If you feel like ordering internationally, you can choose Alpha Cool. But we're actually gonna get back to that in a minute. But take a look at this. Look at this fun, full-length board design. Look at the size of this monster. It just goes to show you how big the graphics card is going to be. So that's the machined side that goes against the card, and it also covers the VRMs, and we've talked a lot about VRMs today, and we just want to make sure we keep those VRMs cool because they provide the power or the stable power delivery system, and that's what you're going to need if you plan to overclock. If you're not planning on overclocking, all this may be superfluous to you, but these, in addition to having the ability to overclock, have a much longer life, have a longer longevity because they're made with higher grade components, and they've spent the extra money to make it a premium product. This is our CPU block. Actually, this is our mono block for the Aorus Z390. You can save a considerable amount of money, about 40%, by just cooling the CPU. And in the case of the Aorus line, especially the Master having such an incredible VRM system, it may be superfluous to water cool that, but we wanted to go all out on this one. We spent a little extra money, got the mono block that covers the CPU and VRMs. Look at this, the size of this thing. Oh my God. And it is super heavy too. This thing is a block of iron. Let's take a look at that. Please remove before installing. That's good advice. Make sure to remove this before installing. That's our super advice for the day. But that's going to be exciting. There's also LED like sockets if you want to put in LED lights into your blocks. I believe these actually are RGB, built with RGB, but a lot of these blocks also include a little, you may not know what they were. It was like an empty screw socket, it might have looked like, but they're for putting in an LED light. What's up, Shelly? Okay, thanks. We're trying to keep it within a reasonable time frame, deliver this reasonably fast to you, and not chit-chat too much. But we have a lot of boxes to open. And explanations to give. We will get back to putting that in the box later. Sorry, we have limited space here, and so I'm trying to make sure everything goes back where it goes. This is one of our smaller shooting areas. What do we have left? Oh yes, one of my favorite parts I've been looking forward to. I don't even know if, oh yeah, here it is. These actually go together. This is the pump block. This goes on top of the pump. We paid the extra money for shiny, and we got shiny. Look at this guy. He is shiny. This is supposedly flame polished acrylic. So in our last build, we used Alpha Cool. We used Alpha Cool because those are the radiators we recommend. We'll be getting to that in a moment. And so we kind of figured we'd get all the parts from the same place, and we kind of liked what they had to offer. Unfortunately, the Alpha Cool block it was okay. It's not as clear as this. It's actually a little bit foggy in comparison to that. Our real complaint was with the Reservoir. The Reservoir came with micro scratches, and we almost returned it because, we're expecting kind of a glass, a crystal finish, and it just had you look really closely, and then little micro scratches. We ended up keeping it because at any considerable distance, you can't see them, but just like with Ultra HD, it's not about being able to make out the tiny pixels or flaws, but it's the seamlessness from pixel to pixel, from minuscule area to next minuscule area. That, when you look at a car that's on a road or on parked, and you're like, wow, you can tell from a distance that is a nice paint job. When you get close, it's free of scratches. And you look at another car and you're like, that's not as nice of a paint job. And you get close, and it's because it's covered in little micro scratches. But you can't see those micro scratches, but it fogs up the clarity. And I know this is kind of a long and nerdy explanation for clarity on your Reservoir, but when you're spending $60, $70, $80 for your Reservoir because you're custom machined, and you want a clear plexi tube, you want the best for your money, right? And so we gave up on, and we also had issues with the Alpha Cool where the ports in the acrylic they cracked fairly easily during tightening. And so we ended up having to marine 2-part epoxy. I swear by marine 2-part epoxy. But we had to use marine 2-part epoxy to fill in around some of the fittings because it had cracked, a hairline crack, and it was bleeding liquid. And so couldn't figure out why the line, it wasn't enough to pool inside the machine, luckily, but the water level kept dropping. This is, and I've already got my fingerprints on it, but this is a machine, flame polished acrylic by Singularity Computers. The extra money didn't really go to the Reservoir, but to the compatible water block for this. See, this goes together. You take off the ring here and it fits in. Actually, I believe it's this way. One of those ways. Anyways, I haven't read the instructions yet. But this was more expensive. So with the Alpha Cool, we got I think it was right now available. You can get the water block and the pump for $111 on Amazon. Um, this alone was $69. You can actually get away paying $59 if you get the Palm version, just the black. But we wanted shiny, so we got shiny. So we did pay a premium for that. So not only is this an enthusiast grade computer that we're building, but it's a showcase computer, and you'll see how much we mean by that when you see the case that we chose.
It don't go in that box.
This doesn't go in this box?
No, that foam.
Oh, that foam doesn't? Just this, huh?
Correct.
All right, thanks, Shelby. All right, so we'll just put this off to the side for now.
Those go with the foam housing.
All right, we'll keep those together. All right, so going with that, boy, I'm tied down. See if I can reach it. And now I got taped to my microphone line. This is the PTEG tubing. Last time we went with Primo Chill. Once again, the Primo Chill had micro scratches in the tubing, and we felt like, well, we won't be able to tell from a distance, but it kind of reduced the overall clarity. We didn't seek this out intentionally from EK. It just happened to be on sale on Newegg, and it was a really good price. Normally they come in 500 millimeter lengths. This is 1,000 millimeter length, and that's only because we plan on doing a really fancy bend job, and we want the extra length to try and make totally unnecessary but cool looking bends. We have a couple of these small ones. I forget what are in these. Oh, yeah. The one thing I would say I would recommend against getting, this is, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned, but it was by Singularity Computers on both of these parts. The one complaint I have, and if Singularity Computers, if you're listening, is that you don't provide stock brackets for your reservoir. Doesn't come with anything. No, I didn't see anything anyways. Did you see anything, Shelby? I didn't see anything. And so that means we have to buy separately brackets, and not only is that an extra expense, but the ones that Singularity Computer offers is like specially milled from stainless steel or something like that, and they're $45, and that is ridiculous when you're trying to hang something only $69. It's like hanging a Picasso painting that costs $10 million and spending $5 million for the nail to hang it on. It's I'm like, I almost canceled this whole order ever since I saw this combo on Jay's 2 Cents, which is originally where I saw it featured. Shout out to Jay's 2 Cents. Excuse me. I was really excited about it, and then I saw, oh, look how expensive the water block is, and like, oh, look at the brackets aren't included. We found some brackets from EK that fit supposedly any 60 millimeter reservoir, and we got these for $15. And we chose these over the Bits Power one. You can get those for as low as $3, not including shipping, which actually like kind of quadruples the price. We chose these because there's actually an extra screw that goes in here, and you can see that these have a little space there, like a crack, and that screw closes it down. So the screw will actually lock the reservoir into place theoretically, and so shaking or moving or shipping a PC won't cause a reservoir to come free, and so hopefully more secure for can you imagine your full reservoir coming free inside your build in like your $3,500 build? What a catastrophe that would be. That's why we opted to pay $15 instead of $3, but we shouldn't have to pay anything, in my opinion, our opinion. You can't reach that, can you, Shelby? I'll get it. we mentioned Alpha Cool before, and how we no longer recommend Alpha Cool for their reservoirs. Who knows? Maybe with these Protium reservoirs by Singularity computers will have the same problem where it cracks around the acrylic. So we're not saying that this is better than theirs, but we just had the bad experience. If you have Alpha Cool reservoir in your system and would like to share your experience, please leave a comment below. This is, oh my goodness, they taped this like, I think this stream is going to be over before I get this open. Yikes. You know, I didn't think much for the amount of packaging that they provided, because the reservoir is almost exactly this size, so it's not like in a padded container, shipping box, the packing material, and the fins are very delicate. Like even just touching the fins with your bare hands will bend them. It's just trying to dust them of cat hair and dust can result in bent fins, and that's not terrible. If you start getting a lot, then it's going to start restricting your airflow, and that's not good. But this is the 360 millimeter. This in here is the 480 millimeter. I think we might forego opening that up because it is so packed in there. I'm glad to see it's at least in another box inside of that. And there is actually bubble wrap in here, so that's good. But there's a very specific reason why we recommend Alpha Cool radiators. Now, the different companies, manufacturers, will advertise that their radiators, and not all of them do, some are made out of aluminum, which is your worst option for a radiator, and I'll tell you why. But they'll advertise as having a solid copper core. Some have just copper fins and then brass vanes. Some have full copper cores as they advertise, where the tubes are copper as well. And copper not only displaces heat well, so those fins help cool your veins of cooling solution, whatever you're using, but the brass is lower corrosion. I'm sorry, copper is the least corrosive material we have to choose from for our builds. Brass, when you start mixing metals, you run the risk of metal corrosion, and especially if you're combining it with aluminum. Nickel is a better one. It's you really have no other option than nickel plated fittings. At least they're plating those fittings and not just giving you bare aluminum. But you want to reduce the number of metals that are in your water cooling loop to reduce the amount of the chance for corrosion and reduce the amount of maintenance that you have to provide. So we actually started, it's sometimes a terrible pain because we have to order these from Germany in a lot of times. Amazon doesn't always keep these in stock, and even when they do, they're not Amazon Prime, so you still have to pay shipping for them, and it can take a considerable amount of time to get here, and that makes also RMA returns more complicated. But they are the only one, as far as we know, that is a full copper core. We were excited at first, and we were going to tell you, oh, you no longer have to order internationally. You can order Thermaltake reservoirs that now have a solid copper core, and that's what it was advertised on. And there's even a video by them. This is the CL series, is a full copper core, but the tanks are still brass. So why bother making the whole thing out of copper, then still make the tanks out of brass? I got them, And I was like, I opened them up and I turned to my girlfriend and I said, does that look like brass fittings right there? And she's like, it doesn't look like copper. And so I looked and I was like, sure enough, the tanks are brass. So that it was actually difficult because the information conflicts depending on from the website and from the vendor and then from the box, because the box itself actually says mixed metal on it. Well, not mixed metal, like it says brass and copper. So it mixed the metals, and we immediately sent them back, and we delayed this video just so we could get these in and show them to you. Corsair supposedly makes a copper. I think it's Corsair. I think copper, supposedly they advertise that they make a copper core, but after our first trouble and delaying the video already, we just decided to go with what we know. And I'm gonna have to make room here. And went back to the Alpha Cool. They've served us good in the past. And they are a little bit more expensive, and you do sometimes have to pay shipping. But if you order, like, if you're looking at Bits Power, I believe it's Bits Power. Oh no, it's XSPC. Yeah, they make radiators. Those are aluminum radiators. I do not recommend those. And I think we're down to the big boy, Shelby. Oh, we're trying to make room here. Wait till you see this thing. Oh my goodness. I should have actually put this back in the box because now I need to make room. I'll just put it off to the side somehow. Okay. Oh, I forgot to mention the fittings that we choose. We choose monsoon fittings, and there's a very good reason for why we choose monsoon fittings. These are the hardline specifically for hardline, the compression tube fittings, and we choose these for a very good reason. PETG tubing is not really standard. So you can order a 3/8 inner, a 1/2 inch outer diameter, 3/8 inner diameter tubing, or you can get 13 outer diameter, 10 and with 10 millimeter inner diameter. But there's also 12 outer and 10 inner, and 1/2 inch is not exactly 13 millimeters, and it's not exactly 12 millimeters. So when you're trying to make a watertight system that, if leaks, will ruin a $3,500 system, it is of pinnacle importance that these fittings are exact. And so a lot of times when you order parts, they say, oh yeah, only compatible with our tubing, and then they charge a premium for their tubing, where you were getting a deal on the fittings. With Monsoon, I'm going to open this up wrong, spill everything everywhere. They provide, you can actually see this on Jay's 2 Cents too, that's where I learned it. They provide this handy dandy measuring guide, and where you put the tube in there, and where it fits corresponds with the color here. And depending on that color, corresponds to these O-rings. And these O-rings will accommodate tubing from 11.8 to, I think it's 13.2, which includes 1/2 inch. So you get, you can order your tubing from anybody now, as long as it's PETG hardline tubing, that's between 10 and 13 millimeters, or I'm sorry, between 11.8, basically all the ones that are available. They're either going to say 12 millimeter, 13 millimeter or half-inch half-inch outer diameter until you get to a different size altogether. They also have the 16 outer diameter, which is just a bigger tubing altogether, and those fittings aren't intended to fit. So, but there's three, basically you can come across three different sizes of PETG tubing, and these will accommodate any of those. Don't have to worry about making sure. It's already hard, difficult to get the PETG tubing and the number, the size, the length, the quantity, and from the manufacturer, like without having to worry about they don't make it in metric or they don't make it in standard to fit the two fittings that you already have or were planning, you had your heart set to. You know, maybe you were choosing, you know, baby poop green fittings that glow in the dark, and they're only in standard, and you can only find metric tubing in the length that you want or something, you know. So these actually, they just come in a variety of colors as well. So we, for this one, chose the black chrome. Our previous build has just the plain chrome, but they also come in a variety of other colors. And we highly recommend these. We've not had a single fitting leak. We've had a lot of trouble trying to keep everything in the package. Yeah, fail, not even close. Figure that out later. Did we miss anything? I covered that. Oh, you know, I did forget to mention that on the Oris line of motherboards, and we recommend if you want to save a little bit of money, get the Pro. There's also the Pro Wi-Fi. The Master comes with it standard, but it is a dual band, dual antenna Wi-Fi antennas built directly into the motherboard. And the claim is that having basically the Ethernet card built into the chipset, that you get far superior transfer rates that way if your bandwidth, if your ISP can support it. So yeah, there's no middleman. It's not a USB speed transfer limitation. It's built into the chipset. So there wasn't a really big selling point for me. Some of you who want to try and push that 10 gigabit limit, max, whatever, might be interested in that. Just wanted to let you know it was available. I think I have one more thing here that I didn't open. Oh, yeah, that. So we had discovered the clip issue after we discovered the issue that the block, so the reservoir didn't come with the brackets, and the block didn't come with the retaining ring for the pump. So you actually have to get, they want you to buy of course, their Singularity Computers pump housing, and it's like $45 once again, or $50. And so it's just like the reservoir, the reservoir pump combo, you're looking at like $300. And we got our combo from AlphaCool for like $135, not counting shipping. And it came with the retaining ring, and it came with the brackets. And so this is actually the wrong color pump housing. It's okay, Shelby, you can laugh. This is supposed to be black to match the rest of the damn thing. Well, I'm not going to open it because now I have to send it back. And part of the reason I'm so excited about doing this video is so I can open these. So I can open these parts and enjoy putting the build together. But now I have to send, I can't even, the pump won't even stay in there without this. So which means like I can't do the tubing because the reservoir is not in place. Oh my God. What's up, Shelby? Put it in the box. You know how long I've had this? I opened everything to make, like, well, not everything. A lot of things you saw me open for the first time, but like the thermal take reservoirs, I opened them and found out they weren't good. And I opened like the reservoir. I actually opened the reservoir because I asked for a clear tube and I got a black one. Black caps on the reservoir. And so those had to go back, and I didn't check this. And now I have to send another thing back, which is going to delay me building this computer. And I wanted to finish it before Christmas. Okay. I'm going to try and delicately put this on the table without throwing something to the ground. I'm actually going to go ahead and put this reservoir away because I don't want to take a chance of it eating off the table. Jay's 2 cents likes to throw parts around. That's not what we do here at the VR Aperture. Just joking, Jay. If you're watching this, I'm just joking. We love you. All right. Get in there. Get over here. I like Mortal Kombat. Can you tell? That probably shouldn't go on top of that. Oof. Okay. I'm actually gonna have to move this. I've had a secret keyboard the whole time you didn't know about. Those didn't make it back in the box. Oh. Shelby's gonna have to find those later. Here, Shelby, can you put this on the ground by you? Thank you. And how about these two? Thanks, Shelby. Shelbeast. All right. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to do this. Don't worry about it, Shelby. You can knock the camera over, man. I'll get it. You put those right there. You're like, what's this all about? Yeah, you'll see. We actually didn't get our first choice of case. We wanted the Liam Lee 011D XL, which is a mouthful, but it is the sequel to Gamers Nexus. I think it was overall case of the year for 2018. And they made a sequel. They took, I guess, some of their and other gamers' advice and made this sequel. And it looks incredible. We're very excited. But it wasn't going to be here in time. And so we went with our second choice. This case actually was premiered in one of Jay's 2 cents most recent builds. And I saw that case. I'm like, oh, I got to get that one. That's nice. Because they had a specific feature that I liked that I hadn't seen before. Oh my goodness. So that's it. This box will be doing the rest of the video, since that's all we can see. But you can see the size of this and, you know, our shoddy out of frame set. This is a Fantex case. This is previously called Lux 2, the Lux 2. This is actually now the 719 Pro or something to that effect. Oh my goodness. Oh boy. This is a big case. I just wanted it because the heat shroud doesn't, not the heat shroud, the power supply shroud, generally a compartment down at the bottom of the case that hides the power supply, and it's ugly cables from view on cases that have a glass panel, so it hides that. It typically goes all the way from the back to the front of the case, and the power supply is actually only like a fraction of that size. And it would be nice to have that space free so that way you could put in a bigger reservoir. Now, a bigger reservoir is going to hold more water, but that doesn't mean it's going to cool any better. It just means it's going to look cooler, you know? Look cooler, does actually perform cooler. Not from anything that I've seen anyways. If you feel like it, you can correct me if I'm wrong. If you've got some other kind of information you'd like to share, but more of cooling, more liquid isn't going to give you lower temperatures. It's just going to take longer for the temperature to equalize throughout the system. And so when you see benchmarks by like Jay's 2 Cents or Gamers Nexus, they give it typically enough time when they're benchmarking temperatures for the temperature to balance out. When you're on an air-cooled system, it hits its temperature that it's going to hit pretty quickly. With the liquid-cooled system, it has to get all that liquid up to that temperature, and then it shows you, what its stable temperature is at that level of computing. See, look at that. See, the box still says, go ahead and put that stable, Shelby. It's going all over the place. The box still says Lux 2 on it. It's for the accessories. That's interesting. Oh my goodness. I don't even know how I'm going to get this out of here. I'm going to have to move the table. Is there anything blocking the table moving forward, Shelby? No? Okay. Good thing I chose the fold-up chair this time. Hopefully this is not creating too much static on the microphone, moving it around. Oh, awesome. Okay, just my notebook. Not the Protium flame polished acrylic reservoir. I have no idea how to get this out of here. I can't get this out of here like this. It has to. This would have to be done on the ground. I don't even think I could show off this case. I can't get it out of the box with the amount of space that I have. Yeah, there's just a black bag in there. There's nothing really to show off, unfortunately. But maybe if I bring this table forward a little bit more, I might be able to actually get it out of the box. Which end is the top? Yeah, well, I mean front. I don't think there's me getting this out in this space. I don't think it's happening. All right, maybe we might be calling it here. I can get the case out of the box. Take my word on it. It's a very nice case. It paid. Fantex makes one of my favorite case builders is Fantex because they make really good cases for a very good price. Our last case, I believe, was less than $100, and it has a glass panel and it has room for, I believe it's a 240 and a 280 reservoir, which is quite a bit of cooling for that amount of space. And we were able to fit a 150 millimeter reservoir, including the block pump and, powerful enough power supply, 650 watt power supply. all in that little case, and it's actually was quite a struggle to get it all in there. This case is a little more paid, a little more for this one, but like we said, it's kind of like a showcase build in addition to it being an enthusiast grade for to meet the demands of VR. It also has enough space to vertically mount the graphics card without covering up any of the motherboard. And since we paid top dollar, well, not top dollar, but since we've got such an expensive motherboard with all the nice like IO with the nice IO shield and the nice chipset engraving of the eagle and the other various features, nice shiny features like the M.2 shields that they put on there that actually help with. Can you adjust the camera? Let's tilt it. No, just the camera. Just the camera. They have, like I was saying, the M.2 slots have a built-in heat sink. We bought ours when we bought our M.2. We had to buy one in addition to put on it. Of course, don't buy one that comes with it. They're far more expensive to get it with them on there already. But this is kind of built into the motherboard, and we wanted to show all of that off. So we put vertically mount the GPU. It would cover all that up, and we want to vertically mount the GPU because it has a very fancy RGB water block on it. So this case, actually, you could check it out online. We'll put a link to the bottom. And then of course we'll be doing the build, so you'll see the case then. I can't get it out of the box. But check it out online and you'll see what we're talking about, and then tune back in for our future series on this build. But this case will accommodate not only 150 millimeter reservoir, but a 250 with, our hope is, with the block and pump combined, whereas in our mid case, in our Fantex Enthu series Pro M, we actually had to put the pump and block underneath the power supply shroud, and we spent extra money to get it clear with the slots to put the RGB lights in it, and you can't even see it. So this one should allow you to see the whole reservoir. Nice big thing, makes it look all crazy. And then the vertically mounted GPU, which was intended to put either a second power supply in it for a crazy powered system, because if you're going to get like a 2080 Ti, you're going to have to start looking at more than just a 650 watt power supply. With how I'm actually concerned about that, we only got a 650 watt power supply, not in the fact that we have an RTX 2070 Super, but that we got the For the Win 3, which is going to accommodate a higher overclock. And though between the CPU and graphics card and peripherals, we don't expect you would hit 650 on the overclock alone, but you're still not supposed to use more than something like 15 or get more than 80 or 85% of the power supplied by your graphics card. You're not supposed to, consider, oh, I've got, full 650. I can use this full 650. No, you have to leave some headroom. You got to allow for fluctuations. So it has to be a little bit higher. But so this case was intended to have either a second power supply or a mini ITX secondary system if you were going to like run, let's say, an RMTP server for your web broadcast, and you're going to, export the broadcast to a second system and have it do the encoding up to YouTube or Twitter or whatever it is. You can put them both into a single system in this box, in this case, but we're going to be using it to showcase the build, and so we can put, like I said, vertically mount the graphics card. But we have opened everything. I'm sorry we didn't actually open the 2070 Super and show it, the guts of it. There's really not a lot to show you. You've probably seen, you can see pictures of it. It's massive, in my hands, it doesn't look as big because I got football player hands, basketball player hands. And there's really no point in showing it to you because it's best for us to show it to you when we're actually removing the air cooler and putting on the water cooler. There's tons of sources, of course, for you to find this and get tutorials for. But if you're looking specifically for the Wind 3, this might be of interest to you. Or if you're using this specific series of EK water block, because it does fit a variety. Actually, no, this one only fits for the Wind 3. That's why we had to do so much homework on this, because they actually, EK makes one that fits like 20 different manufacturers and 20 different SKUs, and this one just fits a few of the for the Winds. But we wanted to thank you again for tuning in. We really appreciate it. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up, and if you'd like to support us, please hit subscribe. And stay tuned for our future build, our series on our enthusiast VR grade gaming PC. And also we're doing some live streams of Boneworks, a highly anticipated VR game. Please check that out. We have one live stream up already. Some cameraman, huh? Bumping the camera. It's okay. But yes, thank you again for tuning in, and we hope you have a great rest of your week.